Hello, this is Ava from Soul GPS. Welcome. In today's video, I wanted to address a very important topic, and that is the topic of self-care. Now, if you've been on my channel before, if you are a regular visitor, you may know that a lot of my videos center around recovering from narcissistic abuse or domestic violence or abusive situations at work, abusive familial situations. In this video, of course, I am going to address this topic in the context of abuse recovery. However, I feel like this video is really for everyone, right? So regardless of where you are in your journey, there are always things you can do to further upgrade your self-care. So I just posted a video yesterday about my own recent struggles with some health issues that I've had, and taking a couple months off from YouTube in order to practice self-care, self-love. So I'm going to link this video down below. So if you're interested in seeing that, if you're interested to hear about my update, it's quite personal, so you may not want to. But this video today stems from what I've been doing, what I've been working on last couple of months, and so I wanted to share this with you and break this down into very simple steps that you can follow, again, regardless of where you're on this journey. So we can amplify it if you're in a little bit further along the line, along the road, or you can turn it down if you're just beginning. So I want to start by saying that self-care, as light and nice as it may sound, it's really hard work. It is really difficult, especially for those of you who are used to giving of yourself, that are used to looking for your own validation and even self-worth in many cases. I know I've been there myself, and measure it by the degree of which you're getting feedback from another person because you've given to them. So it's like we're looking for that reflection, right? So if this is something that you're used to, and if, say, you were raised in that way, or if you've been trained throughout your relationships, or in any other domain in your life to serve and make that a priority, then you may struggle with self-care. But I want to tell you now that actually self-care is, besides it being an act of self-love, it is also an act of other love. Because if you're filled up and if you feel well, it is so much easier and better to take care of other people. And ideally, I think in our journey, what we want to get to is we want to get to the place where the two happen automatically and spontaneously, right? So you know what you need in order to feel good, to feel well. And so it becomes part of your routine. You do it automatically, more or less. Sometimes we need to, do something different, do something special, put more energy towards it. But you do it automatically to the point where you feel always, or most of the time, you feel filled up. So you spontaneously do acts of kindness and help other people. So that's kind of where we want to get to with this, I feel. So it is work. It is a lot of work. So if you're in the process of recovery, right, which can take years, and the most difficult is year one. But I find for myself personally, like I'm in year 3 right now, and the dynamic is shifting, but it is a lifestyle at this point. Self-care is a part of my life, and I think it will be for the rest of my life, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think it's actually a very good thing. But being with a narcissist, or being in a narcissistic dynamic for a prolonged period of time, to the point where it gets under your skin, when it gets inside you, is going to have impactful repercussions on your body, on your mind, on your emotions, and even on your spirit or soul. So all of these are going to have to be addressed as you are devising a self-care plan for yourself. So just keep that in mind. You're going to have to focus on each of those areas, right? And what's really important is to find a rhythm. Find your rhythm with it. And again, either tune it up and turn it down. It's going to be different minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, month to month. You will be oscillating. So one day you may have more energy, so you will be able to do more. Another day you'll have less energy, so you will go back to your baseline. It's an investment in time. It's an investment also for some of us in money. If you're purchasing supplements, if you are even getting a better pillow for yourself so you can sleep better, essential oils, or even taking time off work, there is a monetary expense there too. But I like to look at it as an investment because, again, the better you feel, the more healthy you feel, the more energy you'll have, and you'll be able to, let's just say, make up for the loss, even though I don't like to look at it as a loss, but I think you understand what I'm saying. So you're probably pretty tired if you've been through the what I like to call the fallout, the narcissistic fallout, or if you've been through any kind of experience that taxes you. We need to take that into account when we build personal self-care plan. We need to take that into account because, again, depending on where you are energy-wise, you're gonna need to act a little bit differently. So if you are exhausted, the most important thing you need to do, and this is step 1 of this program, is to care for your inner space. Specifically, what I mean by this is you need to practice positive self-dialogue. You need to be kind to yourself. So the way you speak to yourself is incredibly, incredibly crucial. If you're going to be propagating the negative voice, the abusive voice of the abuser that probably has been internalized, then it's going to keep you down. It's going to keep you in a position where you're full of doubt, and it's almost inescapable for a period of time. So if you feel like that's something you've been doing, you've been beating yourself up for something that you even haven't done, just know that it's a funny word to say that it's normal. It's common. That's probably a better word. It's very common. It happens to most of us. But the sooner you can get a hang of your inner dialogue, the faster you'll move out of that stage. You're going to start to get energy back into your cells, and you'll cut the inner abuse cycle that is trailing you, even though you may not be in that relationship anymore. So very important to speak kindly to yourself. Now, if you're still in a relationship, or if you're in a familial situation when this happens, there's going to be a period of battling it, right? Because maybe you'll be able to heal some of that, but if it's still coming at you, then it will be difficult for it to stick. So it's very important to also take care of your outer space and set boundaries, and that's step 2. So step 1 is inner dialogue and taking care of your inner space, and step 2 is setting boundaries and taking care of your outer space, because the environment that we're in largely determines how we're going to feel. It even goes further. If you know anything about epigenetics and the work of Bruce Lipton, for example, you may know that your environment also will influence your gene expression. So depending on where you are, who you're with, different genes will fire. So for instance, it is easier to get ill when you're around people who are negative than it is when you are in nature or surrounded by loving people. So just take that into account. It's very important that the space you're in is more of a personal sanctuary, especially while you're healing, than it is, a place where you're constantly being assaulted. Now, for some of you, it may be very difficult to sort of plug yourself out of that space. What can be helpful is to allow that thought to begin to sprout in your mind, that maybe for a period of time you can't leave, but a time will come when you will create your sanctuary, when you will be free. And just remember that place is somewhere along your timeline in the future. Maybe it isn't just yet, but the fact that you know it's coming and you can start even planning towards it will orient you in the right place. And sometimes you may have even great ideas come into you as a result of that, just because that seed has been planted. So you're almost like communicating with your future self, and it's whispering to you, okay, do this or do that, so you can get closer to that place where you want to get to. So it is very, very important, both for your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional and spiritual, the kinds of boundaries that you're going to set. Now, it's not just with people, it's not just with things, it's also with things like social media. So if you feel like you may not have enough time on self-care, maybe you're spending too much time on looking at Facebook, which is making you even more miserable, right? It's perpetuating that cycle, especially if you're looking at the pictures that remind you of your ex, or are reigniting the trauma bond with the abuser. Don't do that. There's a great work by, it's called Deep Work by, forgot his first name, but last name is Davenport, if I can remember him right. So he has some great talks on YouTube. I will try to also link that to this video. It's in a bit of a different topic. It's a topic of productivity. But he talks about how in today's day and age, one of the most valuable skills a person can have is focus. And our focus has been fragmented because of our exposure to social media, to devices which constantly fragment our attention and make it more difficult to, for example, read a book, or to sit down and meditate, or to eat a meal without looking at another screen. And he was talking about how when he stopped doing all that and he drew a boundary, right, he became incredibly productive, and he was able to accomplish a lot of different things. So, you know, if you feel like that may be one of your excuses, you know, I can't take care of myself, I can't go on a walk, I can't clean my space, I can't cook something healthy for myself, I can't meditate, I can't stretch, you know, then maybe these are excuses that are there as a default, and they just need to be looked at and with a logical, critical mind and eradicated, because you probably do have the time. It's just that potentially you're spending this time on things that are not serving you. So just make sure you take a look at that. Another part of this, I hinted that a little bit in this part in step 2, is clearing your personal space, right? When you clear your personal space of the things that are not giving you uplifting energy, are not giving you fuel, positivity instead. And I remember in my space, I had a few things that were pretty, but when I looked at them, they reminded me of something that wasn't so pleasant. Like it was like the subconscious mind was being triggered by something. I gave those away. You know, and my space right now, where I have my home base, has a ton of open space and very little clutter, and I feel so much better being there. So just as a potential step for you to rearrange your space a little bit, purge the things that remind you of the toxic person, and bring in fresh flowers, maybe some incense, maybe some aromatherapy, a little bit more light, clean the windows. Sometimes these things can really, really do magic. And rearrange your furniture. That's another way to change your space so that you don't think so much about the past. It can help you get your mind off of the abuser whom you might still be missing. So that's step 2. Build boundaries. And one more thing about boundaries, I've actually made a lot of videos on boundaries, so I encourage you to listen to them. But one thing I want to mention too is that boundaries are very fluid. They're like a cell membrane, right? They are malleable, and they're going to change depending on your day and where you're at and who you're with. So just know that it isn't a static thing. It is something that actually stems from a deeper place of how you feel and what you think about yourself. Okay, just wanted to mention that. Finally, step 3 is body temple. So taking care of your body temple, it is so incredibly important. And this is about just the most fundamental things that we need to focus on, so that we can build on top of it with things like creativity, which can arise spontaneously when the fundamental items are taken care of. And those things are, number 1, and order is important. Number 1 is rest. Number 2 is nutrition. And number 3 is movement. Really important. If you can do all of them at the same time, all the power to you. But if you're struggling and you're still in the beginning of this journey, I would say that rest is the most important area to focus on. So make sure you get enough sleep, you get quality sleep. A lot of you struggle with it. I know this. I've been through it myself. The waking up at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, eyes wide open, heart's racing, you don't feel like sleeping, and then you're exhausted the whole entire day. So again, super common, but but there are ways to help yourself, and I'm going to do is I'm going to link yet another video below this video of a really great talk. It's Tom Bilyeu and Sean Stevenson, if I remember it right, who talks about different technologies you can utilize to get better sleep. For me personally, what helped was sleeping in a very dark room, getting a very hot bath or shower before bed, putting on some lavender oil, and then listening to a podcast or some kind of a video that was soothing to me. Not necessarily a meditative video, because that can be re-triggering. I've talked to some of you and you have a similar experience. Instead, just listen to something that interests you, something that maybe talks about narcissistic abuse, something that validates you, and then you can use that for a while. And don't worry about these quote-unquote crutches in the beginning. Use whatever you need to so that you feel better, you feel calmer. Another thing you could do is drinking some tea, some herbal tea that's calming, and taking some supplements for that as well. And you can research that on the web and elsewhere, or ask your naturopath. The other thing is, number 2 is nutrition. We're still in step number 3. It's nutrition, and nutrition is super important because the kind of food that you eat will absolutely influence the way that you feel. So for me, as I've been recently changing my diet a lot due to some health concerns, I've had a high-fat diet has worked for me the best. A very high-quality fats, no sugar. I cut sugar about 2 months ago. And I also have introduced high-quality protein into my diet that I also needed in order to have a little bit more energy, because I used to eat very high carb, mostly all vegan, but that just wasn't fully serving me. I was getting more and more weak. Again, this depends on you. This depends on what works for you. We're all a little bit different, so just research that and do what works well for you. So nutrition is number 2, because the kind of fuel you supply your body with is going to largely determine the thoughts you're going to have, the state of being you're going to have, and also the levels of energy you'll have. And that takes me to movement, because if you're not rested well, at least that's what I think, if you are not rested well, and then most likely you're not going to eat well. Right? That's another big link that is out there that scientists have made. Nutritional scientists, they've said that if you don't get good enough sleep, then you will likely eat food that isn't as healthy the next day. So first we need to take care of rest, then we need to take care of nutrition, or again, as soon as we can do both, the better. And finally, we will have the energy to do movement. At first, it could be something gentle. I like shaking and stretching because it purges trauma out of your cells. I like vigorous dancing and also slow movement. I like organic expression. At least that's what I did a lot in the beginning of my journey. And then, of course, walks in nature are super invaluable. So whatever suits you, whatever works for you, do that. And if you have deeper health concerns, if you feel like there may be something with your lungs, with your heart, with your stomach, with your nervous system, which was the case with me, you may need to consult a doctor. You may need to consult several doctors. You may need to form an A-team of people who are maybe naturopaths and conventional doctors. Maybe you need a chiropractor, maybe you need a massage therapist, maybe you need, a coach or a therapist. This is all part of your self-love. This is part of your self-care. So do what you need in order to feel better, and if it requires asking for help from someone else, do that as well. So to recap at the end, the 3 steps for self-care are: number 1, taking care of your inner space. That is really the most important thing. If you do just that, then you're going to see tremendous progress very quickly in your life. But first you need to become aware of the voice, and then you need to just exit out. Say, I'm not going to listen to it. Realize this is the voice of the abuser, and give it your middle finger if you even need to do that. So do that and practice speaking gently towards yourself. Great book that I recommend if you'd like to dive deeper into this it's called The Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. It's an excellent resource for becoming kinder towards yourself. So step 1, inner space, nice, good, positive self-dialogue. Step 2, outer space, boundaries with people, with things, with social media, with information. We need to become very good at filtering what we're letting in, and also being very proactive at what we're getting out, and how we're doing this also with respect and not assaulting other people by the difficult times that we're having. So that's another sort of the other side of boundaries, is not just what we take in, but also how do we communicate outside with other people, because we don't want to go the narcissistic route. We don't want to become bitter. We don't want to become resentful. We don't want to become judgmental. To a certain degree, we may need to step back and withdraw and care for ourselves and not have too much interaction with people. But eventually, step by step, we need to let our kindness and our empathy shine again, so that we can connect to others and have a fulfilling social life as well. And finally, step 3 is taking care of your body temple. I like to look at it as the intermediary between the inner and the outer. It's the body. And the physical body is incredibly important. You may think this is all an illusion. You may think it's all transient and it doesn't matter, but it really does matter, because the way you feel inside your body really will determine the way you feel about yourself, the thoughts you're having, and the way you interact with other people, and will also influence the quality of the relationships that you have. So I'm going to end it here. If you have any questions, comments, anything to add, you tend to leave amazing comments on my videos. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for your involvement, for your participation. So yeah, I invite you to share what's worked for you. Let us know where you are in your journey, how we can best help. And I again want to thank you all so much for commenting on each other's comments and providing support. That is just tremendous. So thank you so much for that. I wish you a beautiful day, and I look forward to catching up next time. Much love to you. Bye-bye.